welcome back to OHKO, a Pokemon VGC podcast. A lot of exciting news coming up with Pokémon Day, but we have even more exciting news here, so that's going to have to wait because we have none other than 2026 EUIC Champion Paul Chua here with us, as well as Joe Brown. Paul, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. How does it feel? Recent IC champ, two-time IC champ, another title under your belt.
Yeah, it feels pretty good to get another win after what was it, 3 years since the last time I won, and that was EUIC also. So
yeah, I think that's the craziest part to me is that there's something where other people maybe they don't think as fondly of EUSC in London. I think in that building for you, you've won 2 ICs, you top 4 worlds as well.
Yeah.
At this point, do you gotta maybe get like a dual residency or something?
I don't know, man.
London
I mean,
might be your city.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of think that too when I think back the top 4 too being in the same building.
I know you're just sitting there like every world's from here on out. Okay, please be at the EXO. Please be at the EXO. Come on, let's get this and run back. Before we dive too far into things, Joe Brown, hello as well. I know you've been working on the Olympics. I see the chatter every day. How are you?
I'm alive currently. It's we're making it through. I've worked 21 straight days. I got 2 more to go before this Olympic journey is over. It's been a long days, but it's been a lot of fun. And seeing people in the Discord get super highly invested in curling and figure skating has also made it a lot more entertaining, easier to get through the workday. So.
It's good. 2 more days. I've also had some really busy days, playing TFT nonstop, forcing Yordles every game. It's a lot. I've definitely been putting in that work, but I could find the time for this. I know the podcast episode's a little late, everyone, but we had to make sure all the schedules could align. So let's dive into EUIC. Well, I want to dive into the curse first off, because 3 years since we got to see you second at Toronto. So I want to know then, because now we get back-to-back tournaments, right? How you kind of feel going into EUIC, especially just coming off of a tournament where you're just so close.
Yeah, so after I got second at Toronto, I felt pretty fine just because my overall goal anyways was to just make worlds. And since after that I was at 1,000 plus points, I already felt fine going into worlds. Or for world's invite, so I didn't have too much pressure going into EUIC, but obviously I still wanted to do well, so that's kind of why I just went with a version of my old team, just because I felt like that'd be the safest one for me to get points with.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because I know we had Carrie on after winning in Toronto, and he was debating. And we had Justin Tang after he won in San Antonio. It was like, oh, what do I, do I win or do I bring back the same team? And I think that is, even for the non-regional champions, it's a difficult decision. Does getting top 16 warrant you running this team again in the next event, or do you have to go 0-2 drop to completely scrap your team? So what are your thoughts on a evolving format like this where you're attending multiple events in a row? Not just for you, obviously you were comfortable with running the team back, but for a general VGC player, is it smart to use the same team regardless of, even if you went 2 and 4 or something like that, or should you adapt?
Yeah, I mean, at least for this one, there was a month right between Toronto and this, so there was time to try this stuff. I did end up doing that. I tried a version of Carrie's team, but it didn't work that well for me, so that's why I ended up going back to it. But I think in general, it probably is fine to just stick to the same stuff. I guess it just depends on how the meta changes, right? Because there were times, right, in other regulations where a team that you use just kind of phases out. I think the easiest example is the one I used in Baltimore in the first go of Reg H. It was good at the start, but as the format went on, it kind of just sucked. So that's one example of where it's not a good idea to just main that team just because the meta just wasn't kind to it.
That makes sense. I mean, with your team, because we got a lot of balancing elements, I felt like it wasn't necessarily something that could phase out, but instead people were trying to find counters and ways to be taking it down, right? I mean, Raging Bolt has been the talk of the town ever since we went back to the regulation, even before then when it was the votes, right? And so we've gotten to see a lot of like P2 Ursa. We've gotten to see people try and answer it. So I want to know then going into EUIC off of a win, like we saw a lot more P2 Ursa stepping up. A lot of that. Was there ever the consideration that maybe it would just start getting too hard of countered, or is there still that just innate confidence that this is just too strong of a team?
Well, I think one thing that helps is there's a lot of different versions of balance, right? There's like the Landorus Chentao version. There's like versions where you just have only a Landorus there. Um, and there's like just a bunch of them. So I know like that's one thing that kind of helps. So like they can't like particularly counter it just because there's so many different versions of it. It's hard to counter everything. Um, but with Peter Ursa, going into the event, I practiced against it anyways, like even before Toronto, and it felt perfectly fine. So that's why I didn't feel like super worried that P2 Ursa was everywhere, especially because now I put taunt on Incineroar, right? Like that helps a lot just because it stops Trick Room. Um, but yeah, like even like before Toronto, I felt fine with the P2 Ursa and it popping up going into EUIC. Wasn't like that big of a deal for me. I felt like it was still. I felt like my team could still handle it just because Incineroar is just really good against Ursaluna because you just intimidate it a lot. So
And I've always enjoyed your play style, especially when we get to cast, because like it always feels like you're in charge. Like as one of the players on the stream, like I think of it with Marco, and I think of it with some other players that it feels like you're leading the pace of the set, or you can try to match people and go for predictions, or you can bring them down to your slower and steady pace that you often like to play at. And I wonder if that is were there any adjustments from Toronto to EUIC in maybe your pace or your prediction making? Because in that finals match against Kerry, it seemed like he had a lot of confidence. He was going for the big plays. But then we watched you in finals here, last weekend. It felt like you knew what the right call was every turn.
I don't really feel like there's anything different. Honestly, going back to Toronto, I definitely know I didn't bring the right Pokemon. That's probably why I ended up losing like pretty badly. Like I don't know, like I kind of realized like after like game two or whatever that I brought the wrong Pokemon. So I was like, man, like I like I really did not want to play the rest of the finals out, but that's what ended up happening there. But I don't think like in terms of anything like playstyle wise, I don't feel like I did anything differently. Although like I guess from an outsider point of view, it does kind of look like I did. But again, that's just how I feel. Maybe there is something in there that I just haven't noticed.
I mean, one thing for certain, let's talk about the finals match of EUIC, because I think the biggest change up was just I want to talk about first going into that match, because we didn't really get too much insight from either of you guys going into it. Kind of like, just happy to be here, happy to play, nerves, etc. I want to know, like, actually just like how you felt heading into this finals, especially to like, was there the weight of this curse on your shoulders that you haven't gotten this win? Were you worried about the matchup at all?
Yeah, it was a mix of both, right? Just because, like, I think especially like that little curse thing that you're talking about. The team has always gotten second at best when like anyone's tried it. Like Tim Edwards literally got second at that event the last time we did Reg F. So I definitely was kind of worried that I'd still get second again, and like the team just peaks at second. But in terms of the matchup, like Side Spam's always like 50-50 anyways. So that's I think what's always a little more annoying. But I was a little like not as nervous, partially because in the GC before Toronto, I faced Adi in the GC and I won pretty easily. So I had a feeling that the matchup wasn't like bad. So at that point I was just trying to figure out like what he could do differently. Um, that could trip me up. So that's mostly what I spent like my prep time going into the finals doing.
I think what helps your team in that side spam matchup compared to others, because I've played a lot of it, and like sometimes I'm licking my chops getting ready for balance, because like I have my go line just like the balance players have their turn order already thought out multiple turns in advance. So I think what helps you is the versatility of the Pokemon that you have. Like you mentioned Taunt on Incineroar, you mentioned, or you didn't mention it, but you have the Swords Dance on Ogerpon Hearthflame, right? Which not a lot of the Ogerpon players are really taking advantage of how strong of an attacker Hearthflame can be, and so is is that like I think of you as a player, like I think of the old Palkia teams, right? Like
Oh yeah,
that just have a
yeah.
lot of, like, there are certain modes, and I love that team. Oh, it's one of my favorite teams ever.
Yeah, I like it
But
too.
like there are clear, identifiable leaders of the team building core, but you can succeed with any of them. And I felt like your balanced team here, it felt like kind of a similar way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think like at least like especially when you watch like the finals, it's like the only Pokemon that I brought that's like important, or at least like the only two I guess, were like Rillaboom and Ogerpon. But I feel like that's like kind of obvious that you have to bring Rillaboom anyways against Side Spam. So yeah, I think like at least there's like a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can bring. Even like earlier in EUIC, I faced another Side Spam and I did like a similar thing where I brought like basically everything except Rillaboom was like the one common factor between each game that I played against them.
For sure. And now, you said that you felt, you put in the prep. You knew how to beat the team because you've seen it before. I want to know then going into the finals, because that's always one thing. You can prep like crazy. You can prep a bunch of stuff, but you never actually know what they're cooking up on the opposing end. Obviously, you got a very, very strong victory, but
Yeah.
was it some adaptation on the fly? Did Zachary play into kind of what you thought he would, or?
Yeah, honestly, I think he did kind of play it to exactly how I planned. Just because like there was so much information about like Zach's approach to like balance. Like he played one in top 16 and top 8, and those were streams. So I like literally that's what I ended up watching like the night before to help me come up with a game plan. So that helped a lot going into it. What else was there? Shoot, I already forgot.
It's late on a Friday, everyone.
It's
Okay.
all good, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, we know Paul loves a good stream match. That's why he got a 2DS back in the day to get out of the Liberty Garden ones, you know.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah. Yeah.
You're just a big fan of being on stream, you know?
Oh yeah, totally.
No, but like with this kind of might sound like a weird question because you were the best player at the biggest event ever, right? Like that is the objective. You won, but has there ever been a tournament that you lost or got second or whatever that like you felt you played better at than this last weekend, or a tournament you have won, if that makes sense? Like you got the ultimate accomplishment this weekend, but just because you did win doesn't mean that felt like that was the best team you ever had, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Let's see. Honestly, like Toronto kind of felt like that. Just because like I feel like I played pretty well from like top 8 onwards. Just because like considering the fact that like I think one thing that helped a lot was like the top 8 matchup against Aaron Brock. That one, my prep against that, like going into it, didn't work. So I definitely had to like come up with like a plan on the fly. And that was the only time where I felt like I had to do that in like a while. Because even at EUIC, it's like all my cut opponents, I had a plan for them, and it worked really well every time. So like it didn't feel like I had to like improvise on the spot. Like it just felt like I just had to stick to my plan, and then like it just works fine.
I mean, when you talk about like these tournaments that you've done well at, obviously you just got this win. You are, I think, the second most decorated player in VGC history. If you look back at regional wins, you got your second IC. I think that tracks, right? Second most, or at worst would be third, but I'm very certain it's second. But like, how do you get that consistency over these events, right? Like I know it's been a bit since you've won an event, but the EUIC that you won was a big event. The EUIC you won now is a big event. Like taking down ICs is incredible, not to mention all the regionals you do have. Like how do you stay so consistent throughout all these years?
I think like the obvious answer is just like playing a lot still, right? Just because it's like as long as you just like keep like putting in the effort and like playing games, you'll hopefully keep up the results. I think that's like another thing. But like nowadays, I end up watching like a lot more like videos of other people playing. Like actually, that's how I ended up talking to like Yu Zhang Wang and Long Yulin leading up to this. I was watching like a Team China exhibition match, and it was Reg F. And the way they played the team made it look like really strong. So that's what convinced me. And it helped me like kind of learn more on like how to play the team.
So even the best players in the world are like still watching YouTube bots to get better. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, just hope for like, the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah, just because like I mean, there's a lot of like decisions anyways in Pokemon, so it's hard to have like a right decision. So that's why I think that's why I like watching the other people play because just to see how like they think and maybe that can help me in the way in the long run.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good. Sorry.
Unless you have something before we dive into EUIC, I wanted to pull up all the
No,
EUIC
we're
stuff.
good.
All right, we're gonna do that then. So, obviously, we still have questions for you, but I want to take this time to also get your input on what we got to see coming out from EUIC. I mean, the fact that we had a Regulation F for EUIC before in the past for 24, I think is really, really interesting. But obviously, we've come a bit of ways since then. But how did we kind of feel meta-wise heading into this? Because we've been kind of in a weird place with the meta where obviously there is all these different variation of balance teams, and it is one of the strongest things. But we've seen a little bit more Reggie Drago. P2 Ursa kind of had a really big surge before really not having that same sort of pop off that maybe you would have expected. Like, kind of what was your expectation going into the event versus how it actually all panned out?
Oh, so my expectation going into the event was, I know like everyone gassing up P2 Ursa was like I know that probably wasn't gonna happen. Like just because like I don't think like 75% of people were gonna run it. Like I knew I'd run into like a handful, and in the long run, like I did only face one. So I knew the field would be like a mix of like balance and like what's it called P2 Ursa, and then there was also maybe like a few like side spam. I didn't know side spam was probably something to think about just because if people are trying to counter P2 Ursa, I felt like Reggie Drago side spam stuff would be um, kind of like the counter to it. But like I knew like nothing too crazy I think would come from it. So those were like the three that I expected to be like the most popular. And kind of looking at the results of EUIC, that's kind of what happened. Like looking at the top eight, right? It's um like a decent amount of side spam, a decent amount of balance, and like some P2 Ursa. I think there's only like two weird teams I think out of the top eight, right? It's like Frederick's team and Francesco's team. Francesco's team that definitely looks like it's out there to like counter balance, right? Because you have like the Tingaloo that just shuts down Raging Bolt, and like Frederick's team had like the Oblivious Dozo, which most people do view as like the best Dozo set to kind of counter um, Bolt balance stuff, just because like that just shuts down like the whole like fake out cycling because you have like the cloak on Dozo also.
I mean, you're saying like those are the two weirder teams. I mean, we got to see that GTO went third. You also went up against him twice and beat him.
Yeah,
So with
yeah.
that being a little bit more of a, like, how is that matchup then? Because I definitely feel like that's one of the more out there teams. We saw it in VR, so it wasn't a complete unknown,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's definitely one of the more interesting teams in a really good way.
Yeah. Cisco's team definitely was kind of scary just because what's it called? He has like a lot of just because what's it called? Gouging Fire Tinglu is always really annoying. And usually my general approach is setting up Raging Bolt. But obviously when he has like Thunderous with Covert Cloak, that's not something that's really possible. So like in my case I had to come up with like a newer way around it. In my case it was just like using Urshifu. But obviously like that can kind of be a problem if like Thunderous outspeeds Urshifu, so then you always get like hit by the Wild Bolt Storm, and there's always the chance of you getting like paralyzed. So that for me was a little scary because I had to come up with like an entirely new plan. This because obviously this isn't something that like I prepared for, right? Like I didn't go into this tour expecting to face like Thunderous, Gouging Fire, Tingaloo. That's like the bottom of my like obviously like I knew it in VR, but like I had a feeling that like the only person that would run it would be like Arash, who like used it in the actual tour. So I wasn't expecting to like see it again because I saw like Arash didn't even show up to the event. So
I think what's cool with this team too is that there are five defensive terrors, right? Unless is that Steel or that's six, right? 'Cause Steel
yeah,
on
they're
the
all
Dragonite
defensive.
as well. So it's a very much a like a reactionary terrestrialization,
Yeah.
right? You want to save your Urshifu, you want to save your Dragonite, you want to save your Gouging Fire from a Draco or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. How do you fall when you're team building on like how important it is to have something that can give you the extra nudge you need offensively for a knockout versus the utility of being able to change your typing defensively.
So mostly I think it's just like playing out the team, just because it's like I guess it depends on like how it feels like you lose like certain matchups. Like I guess for example, like on my team, I guess it would be like like the Urshifu, I guess. And like in my case, I'm Focus Sash, right? So I should always just go like the only defensive one I can really go is Ghost, right, to block like extreme speed, just because there's no need to go like anything defensive if I'm probably gonna take 2 hits anyways. Um, so there's that. I think it's just like mostly just like playing and seeing like how you feel you want to play the Pokemon. So like in my case, like if I want to play Urshifu like in a more aggressive way, I'd stick to like Water or Stellar. But if I'm struggling, for example, against like Chen-Pao Dragonite, then I'd probably prefer to slap a Ghost Terra on there so that I don't just get blown up by E-Speed and Sucker Punch.
That definitely makes sense. And talking about your team and just like this balance that we see to like you lean towards at Toronto, we started like I don't know if you went back and watched, but we just talked about the entire time how good you are with balance and that like Paul Chua with balance is just like almost unstoppable. Apparently a little stoppable because Toronto, but then you get to EUIC and then you're unstoppable, right? Like we're calling you the balance king. So like I want to know like is that something you also feel like just balance is this best archetype for you? Like live up to this balance king claim?
I think people are over exaggerating the king part, but it's definitely like the archetype that like I like playing the most, just because like I feel like it's obviously obviously as the name implies, it's a nice balance between offense and defense, which is usually the way I like to play. I don't like using like offensive stuff because whenever I try it, I feel like I lose too fast. I've said this story before, but earlier at the start of this run back, I was trying out Side Spam, like so the team that Roberto Parente used at a local, but like I lost in the top 4 of at like a cup because I forgot to press Tailwind, and after that I realized that offensive stuff probably isn't for me because if I can't remember something simple like pressing Tailwind, I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Sierra, I'm telling you, you're not ready for when Paul can get Mega Kangaskhan back in his hands. Some other bulky balance bonds from back in the day. Oh, throw Crest Heatran in there. Oh, it's gonna be a good time.
I'm not ready.
But like, all right, Paul, you have won obviously throughout multiple different generations, all of these different regionals and ICs, and I've known you since the Gen 6 days, right? So how do you gauge like your favorite play styles of, because you didn't have Raging Bolt as an option when you were winning regionals in Gen 6 or whatever, right? Like, so to say like, oh, I like balance because of these Pokemon or whatever, like a completely different generation, Pokemon Champions, you can have a whole different metagame. So how do you still continually find your way back to that balance archetype if the Pokemon keep changing?
Well, part of it is definitely like trial and error, right? Like especially when like a new game drops, right? People have like a bunch of different teams. So that's probably one way to start finding out like what Pokemon that you enjoy using and which ones you don't. At least like for finding like the teams that I like, it doesn't exactly need to have like the same Pokemon. Usually it's just like if the typings of the Pokemon like synergize well, then that's probably something that I'll enjoy. Like I guess the general idea is like, right, like if they have decent typings across each other, so that's not like overly weak to one type, and and the team doesn't look like it just blows up in like 2 turns. That's probably something that I would probably give it a try and maybe enjoy using. One example where it doesn't work for me was like P2 Ursa for this generation. I've always tried it because people said it was really good, but it wasn't something that I liked using. I felt like the team was too slow, so I think like finding a nice like match, a little in between, is what I usually try to look for.
Were you trying to avoid saying a nice balance, considering we were talking about balance? Because like, like
I couldn't find a different word, so that's what I ended up going with.
A give and take.
Yeah.
A little give, a little take. I mean, bringing it back to EUIC, but in particular, like your run throughout the tournament, we got to see, of course, like going up against this crazy team that maybe you weren't quite expecting, but like throughout the rest of your run too, we had to see losses against like some other balancy things, but like how did you feel up against the run overall? You went against a wacky Sun team, you got quite a bit of size spam. Like how, like, were you confident throughout the run? Was there, what point were you like, I could win this? It's just one match of a time mentality?
Yeah, for me, it's more just like a one match at a time mentality, right? Like, so going into any tour, I always had like the lowest possible standards for myself. Like, I always tell my friends like I just want to go like 5-3, and then like I just update it as it goes on. So it was like that was that. But like game one, I faced a lot of scary teams, right? Like I think like most of my sets went to 3 games. I think starting from like Ryan Powney until Ashton, they were all 3 game sets, and that's when I was just like, man, like maybe this team's like not like super strong because it's like, or like everyone's definitely prepared for this team just because it was like they just felt really hard the games I played. And so I had to keep getting it creative and stuff. Definitely that Sun team was the scariest because the night before I did practice against a version of it, but the one I had Landorus instead of Farigiraf. And obviously Farigiraf makes this a lot harder for me just because it was Terra Fairy. So if he does like Farigiraf next to Fluttermane, I can't do anything with Raging Bolt. So I had to be a little creative near the end of the game for game 3 against them. So yeah, but and then the King Gambit team was also really scary just because that's not something that like I'm used to. Just because no one really runs King Gambit gouging fire. But maybe like I mean, looking at it now, it kind of looks similar to Francesco's team. So maybe like this match kind of helped me a bit in the long run on how to approach Francesco's team because I did like a similar game plan versus both of them.
Dude, Sierra, that Sun team is like that's right up your alley. Honestly,
Yeah,
I know.
I agree.
I just gotta swap out the Walking Wake with a Slitherwing, and I'm set.
Oh no, listen. Paul, we need help with the Slitherwing team. Any ideas? We'll take them from anything.
You're asking the wrong person for that. I always just steal teams, so I don't know any Slitherwing teams. Yeah, even this team, like what's it called? Like it was from like Tim Edwards and people. Like I don't. It's been a while since I've ever had like an original team. Like it's always like I always, especially it's hard to tell because every time I've used a team in the past, it's always been like super standard, right? So it's like. It's not like I came up with it on my own, right? I feel like the last creative team I did was like way back in like the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire days. I feel after that I just always use like the boring stuff. So
just the boring teams.
Yeah.
No honor among thieves here, but yeah. I do think it is. I think some people do get a little like overzealous. I don't know the word, but like with how teams are created, whose teams things are, right? Because it's like. I'm going to use Incineroar. And I feel like an additional fake outer with Rillaboom. Like I think that could actually really help me. Well, it's like, oh, they're using, So it seems like sometimes when there's a random, wacky Pokemon, you can have an originator, right? Like Nikhil's Articuno team. But other times when you're using 6 Pokemon that are all in the top 15 usage, like it's kind of harder to be like, oh, that came from me.
Yeah, I agree. But at least with my stuff, it's like I already know beforehand it's not mine, so that's why it's like I always feel weird when people say it's like my team because it's like I know deep down it's not mine. So
I mean, how much of a believer are you in it's whoever places best with the team? Because we've seen that before, where someone will kind of come up with the first idea, but it's whoever places the best with it the fastest. Gets the creds.
I kind of agree with that. That kind of makes sense, especially just because like obviously the better you do, the more recognition it gets, right? Like most of the time, it's like no one really remembers if you get like second, but if you win a tour, more people are gonna remember, right? So I think I can see like some argument for that being like true, but yeah.
And history is written by the winners, right? Like you are the one that cemented that team. Where even if you work in a team building group of 5 people and let's say 4 of the 5 make day 2 and 2 of them make top 8 or something like that. You're the one that quote unquote fully realized that team's potential, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the team, so last time you won a UIC, you got a shiny Arcanine. And
oh yeah,
you have been like the poster child for if you think you're gonna win an IC, bring an all shiny team so we get a shiny distribution. Because still, like I think that is the last time we got a shiny distribution was your Arcanine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the only one, right?
Yes.
I think everyone else is just normal.
So, and if my memory doesn't serve me right, please correct me. But did you not have like your team wasn't all shiny?
Yeah, that's right. Well,
yes.
Well,
what
like
are you
obviously
doing?
half
What
of
are you
them,
doing, Paul?
I mean,
I know the Raging
what's
Bull
it
can't,
called?
the Urshifu can't, but the
Yeah.
others, they weren't going to distribute
Well,
those anyways.
my Incineroar and Fluttermane are shiny. Those were the Rillaboom's not because I don't have the shiny charm on my Japanese game. I also don't have the DLC there, so I can't like try to catch it, and I didn't want to sit there forever trying to like breed eggs for it. I didn't want to ask my friend either to get like one in Chinese, so I was just like, I'll just use the whatever comes out of the egg. So that's the only one that's not shiny. So that would kind of suck if that's the Pokemon that would be distributed. The one guy that's not shiny.
I think you should probably mentally prepare yourself for that to be
well,
distributed.
You might get
it's like
Flamigoed here.
yeah. Well, I mean, at least the one thing that at least I appreciate is it gets like the partner ribbon, right? Because the Arcanine when it came out, that didn't exist by then, so like it wasn't able to be like Paul's Arcanine by then. But this would be like, I guess like Paul's Rillaboom. If that's actually what happens, but who knows? Maybe they'll change it.
Yeah. I mean, if they aren't going to go for the, it tends to be the non-shiny on the team, I guess we don't actually really have too many of the options because I don't think they're going to do the Raging Bolt. They're definitely not doing the Ogerpon, Urshifu.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they kind of have like no options. So.
Yeah, so it's the Rillaboom, the shiny Fluttermane, or the shiny Incineroar. Like,
I don't think we gotten a Rillaboom yet. I think
yes, we did. We did. It was for like the Taiwan champion team. They had like a code for it. This is a normal Rillaboom.
So if you got to pick out of those three, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Rillaboom with the non shiny. But if you got to pick out of the three, which one would you pick yourself for the distribution?
I'd pick Incineroar just because what's it called? I mean, I also use Incineroar more often than the others. Fluttermane I think is a little too easy to get, so I don't think it's going to be that special to get a shiny Fluttermane. But or at least that was like the first shiny I got in Scarlet and Violet, so that's why I thought it was kind of easy. So that's why I think if I had to pick, I'd pick Incineroar. Although that is kind of funny because that would be like my two distributions are like two shiny fire types. But
I was thinking even it's funny because Wolf's Incineroar from the EUIC before, so we back-to-back Incineroars, but yours gets to be shiny.
Yeah. I think if I did pick, I'd pick Incineroar just because I'd use it more often.
I think you might have to start playing up your hatred for Rillaboom or something, because like that's how the beam worked with Wolf, right? Like he kept acting he doesn't like Incineroar, and now you're about to be locked into being a Rillaboom guy.
Well, I mean, like up until like Reg F, right? I think if you look at like my results, it's like they're all with like Amoonguss, so it's like I barely use Rillaboom until now because like I just like Amoonguss. It just seems really good. Like I think Spore is a really good move.
It's
so
the most Chua of all time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I don't think I need to do like a whole like I hate Rillaboom. I think the proof is right there that I've never been a Rillaboom fan. I've always preferred Amoonguss than Rillaboom.
And now it's going to be tied to you forever in history.
Yeah. Well, I can't do anything about that at that point.
Tragic. I mean, bringing up a viewer question that we had while we're talking about the teams, kind of going back to the balance part of it. This is one from Furret Jesus. With yours and Stefano Greppi's impressive results with Bolt Balance, it'll surely see a lot more counterplay. What do you think the future of balance is for Regulation F? If it sees increased counterplay, do you think it has enough strength to go through? Will it adapt or will it die out? I think it's interesting too because we have seen some attempts at counterplay, but obviously with the amount of different variations for balance hasn't quite been there. But for like your specific type of balance, like how are you feeling about its future here in Reg F?
I think balance will always be good. That's literally just like the idea of balance is just good Pokemon stuck together. And I do think that there are counters out there that exist, but I think the thing that happens is with balance teams, it's less about like the Pokemon on the team and more about the player, right? Just because like I think EUIC is like the perfect example, right? Like everyone ideally should have a good balance matchup or like have an idea on what to do, but like it still somehow ended up doing like really well, right? There's like 2 in top 8 and then like I won with it. So it's like I feel like people can keep trying, but it's gonna be too hard for you to just like hard counter balance without losing to anything else that people can use.
One thing I think that is interesting in VGC in our conversations where we talk about the meta and balance and and like the popular oppressive Pokemon and things like that is that numbers and the truth are kind of a scalable truth to it, because if you look at top 8, there was only 2 Raging Bolts, so you can go, wow, Raging, everyone's crying about Raging Bolt. It's only 2 of the top 8. And then if you just bring it down to top 16, I think it's like 8 or 9 of the top 16.
Yeah. So it's a lot more popular down there.
Right. So just by altering 8 numbers, right, you either make it like, wow, this is really not that big a deal, or oh my god, it's so massive. And I even think, like, when Toller had his tweet at me this weekend about like how dominant Raging Bolt is, like, I could have responded, Raging Bolt had lower usage this weekend than it did in the last EUIC that Regulation F was at, but clearly it does. It was 38 this weekend to 42 last time, and so clearly Raging Bolt feels more oppressive now than it did at that point because we have more time with it. So, like, how do you look at data when you're team building, when you're looking at the good mons and the good usage and day 2 stats and whatever, because you can skew the data in whatever direction you want?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't really look at data like that. I just like, it's because I always look at, like, I don't look at like individual mons, right? Like, I look at like whole teams to see like if there's any trends, or like more like if there's any like crazy sets that pop up, right? Like, I guess like the example I can just use here is like ICU and Chen Pao, right? Like that's something that kind of picked up going into this event, but like, yeah, that's like one example. And then, like, obviously like a more broad example, but like the groups would be like P2 Ursa picking up. But yeah.
I mean, with your team now, I mean, not necessarily everyone does this, but you posted your whole team on Twitter for anyone to use after, saying your Regulation F is over. So first off, was your plan always for Regulation F to be over for you? Or is this just kind of like I have a direct invite 100%, like I don't have to do anything else until I want to?
Oh, yeah. So my Reg F actually is over. Like, right, I'm not going to whatever Reg F events are left, right? What is it, like Seattle and Houston, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know at this point, right?
That's what we hope.
That's the assumption right now, right?
If there is more Reg F events that aren't those 2, then I may have messed up. But so but the other thing was, like, obviously, like I said, like, I usually work with like a group. I mentioned like Yu Zhang Wang and Long Yulin. I did have to bring it up with them first if they were okay with it, with me posting the Renzel, and they were okay with it. But yeah, the main reason why I did it was just because, like, I don't have a purpose in playing Reg F anymore, so it's like I don't really care about like hiding it. That's why like usually with teams I don't say anything about them until like, actually I don't think I've ever said anything about any of my teams until recently. But yeah, like there's just no reason for me to like hide it anymore, right? Like if I'm not going into any more Reg F events, then like keeping this information to me is like pointless. And also, like, even if you saw like the EV spreads, they're all like really basic anyways, so like there really is nothing to hide on that team. So I think the only thing that there is to hide is just like the game plans, but like that's something that like most people can just like figure out on their own. And I think that's like the cooler part about this type of team, is there can always be like different approaches to the same matchup, and I think that's like a good way to learn, I guess, with this team.
What if we have this what if they announce on Pokemon Day that Regulation F is continued up until NAIC? Are you just cooked?
Are you still out?
Are you cooked, or is this team surviving the test of time?
Well, I think obviously I think the team could still stand the test of time, but I think there might be like mon changes, I guess, to it. I'd probably put like a Landorus on there, right? Just because if you look at my run, my 2 losses were 2 Landorus, like Bolt balance stuff. So, and Landorus is pretty good into like specifically my version, because I don't have like a strong way to get rid of it, right? Like I don't have a Chen Pao to like force it to Terra. My best way to handle it is like Ogerpon, but I have to like Terra it to really knock it out. My Urshifu, but I need an Icy Wind, so it just takes too much time with my team to take out Landers. So I got a little lucky that I didn't face many during EUIC.
I do like that you bring up, though, on your like the team sheet, like it does advance the meta, right? It does help people like knowing what these odds are, and that you can speed creep or you can change your EVs to help get these KOs or lift certain hits you wouldn't have before. But the advantage that I see you having, and just balance in general, like, you know, talking with Lorcy about this too, like when you run generic things and when you run general bulk sets, you are at such a better advantage than your opponent in open team sheets, who is really revealing important tech on that piece of paper that you're not, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think that also kind of helps, right? Just because most people, I feel their counters to this team are kind of really obvious. So it's like it's a lot easier for you to like know what their game plan is in the first game and just like win because you already know what they're trying to do. And you can just like win off of that. So yeah, I do think using boring stuff that has like nothing like super special could help a lot because um, it's mostly just like trying to see if your opponent could play better than you and if their plan actually like works.
I mean, that makes sense then why you're so good with balance, because you're just absolutely amazing at the game. And if it's just comes down to a can your opponent play better than you check, then you know, it is what
Yeah.
it is. But I mean, how are you feeling then going on forward past regulation F? Because regardless of what we're doing for our next regulation, regardless of when Champions comes out, whether it is before or like well before Worlds or right before Worlds, like there's all of a sudden going to be all of this information that you've learned that you've been comfortable with that is now going to be completely turned on its head. Like, how are you feeling then knowing that there is this potential of like having to adapt really quickly to this brand new format that nobody knows yet, especially with a really big event? Worlds is in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, like I'm kind of looking forward to it just because like especially this year with like where we've been repeating a lot of regulations. I haven't really been having that much fun with Scarlet and Violet, so I wouldn't mind like something entirely new, even though like it might be too fast, but like it's not something like too crazy that we haven't had before. Like right, like Worlds in 23 was like a completely different format that no one's ever like had enough like um practice with, right? So it's not like anything like super crazy, but yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what we're going to be doing next just because yeah, I'm getting kind of bored of the old formats.
Have you been diving into like Legends EA or any like
I do not
theory
even have the game,
crafting
so
or anything?
I don't have the game.
No
I know
way.
nothing about like the new megas or anything like
How are you
that.
going to transfer them into champions to win worlds?
Well, the power of friendship will help me with that. I've been having one of my local helps me with some of the Pokemon, right? Like the Earth, like obviously at EUIC, like my Pokemon are like some of them were in Chinese. Like my friend Yanchak helped me out get them, so hopefully my friends can still get my back with stuff like that. But
Oh my goodness. All right. This next section of the podcast here, because you've been in this game for a long time, and I feel like there's going to be people here who have not played Pokemon nearly as long as you have, or they've maybe tuned in a broadcast the last few years, and they just come into the scene knowing that you have this accomplishments, which I know was definitely my case when I started playing VGC. Like I just came into the game and it was known Paul Chua has all of these titles, really good at the game. All right. I want to know like before then too, like let's go back to like the early beginnings of Paul and Pokemon, Paul and VGC. Like what even got you started in the game in the first place? Like was it always
oh
with the means to get competitive? Like were you just a fan at a young age? Like
yeah, so I mean I've always liked Pokemon since I was a kid. Like I got Diamond and Pearl when it like came out. But what got me into VGC was I was watching YouTube videos, um, just like about Pokemon, and then like randomly I saw these videos of like VGC like in person, right? And it was in like Philadelphia at the time. But then the next year after, there was a regional in New Jersey, so I was able to go to that one, and I did like decent. Like it was a single elimination at the time, and I got to like the fourth round before I lost to like an explosion as Elf. Um, but I remember like everything about that match. But anyways, that's what happened for my first event. But then after that, I realized like I had a lot of fun doing it, so I've always just like been hooked on it basically ever since. Like the next year, I went to like one more regional, lost kind of early, but then like I guess like 2012 was when I started doing like decent at events because that's when they switched from like single elimination to Swiss, right? And I guess like that's when I kind of started to get a little bit known because at nationals that year it was the only way to qualify for worlds. I got top four at that event. I lost to Aaron Zhang at the time, but I think that's when like people started to know like who I was by then. But
like
The good old days, you
yeah,
know.
2012.
So
yeah,
Crazy. I mean, starting then that early on, because we're in a completely different space now. Like
yeah.
when you first started attending events, when you got to that top four at nationals, like was it ever like a okay, this is just like a little bit of a hobby thing, like, Or was it always like, okay, I want to fully commit into this? Was it something you put so much work into? Did you kind of just naturally pick up the game and have that skill and able to continue on? Like, what was the early on to get to where you are now?
I mean, I think it's just like I just played a lot and practiced for it. Like, because obviously, like you don't expect to have like that one big performance. Like obviously, there's no way I was expecting to like make it all the way to like top 4 at Nats that year. So I think like the thing that helped was just like I just like played a lot and just like understood like the team I used by then. So I guess that's something that carried on to this day. Like right, like even nowadays, like I play a lot to like get used to the team. So
Yeah, and excuse me, sorry. I'm thinking about those old days. I was saying, like you talk about that New Jersey regional. That even predates me. Like I've
yeah,
heard but that is a legendary regional. Like you talk to Gabby
yeah.
or Chalky or like Len or Aaron or any of them. Like that was an iconic regional back in the day. But from when I first started in 2014, when I first met you at our locals, it always felt like you were one of the top trainers in in the top region, right? And did you ever
Mm-hmm.
feel the pressure of our locals? Because for the people who weren't walking, I'm not just trying to go down memory lane here. Like they, there was a lot of trends being set out of those Brooklyn Premier Challenges, and I think Paul
Mm-hmm.
could back me up there. Did you ever
Yeah,
feel like when you were playing at regionals and playing at nationals and stuff, you were representing more than your own skill?
no, I've never felt like that. I think it's more just because like I only care about like myself, like right, like I don't view like myself as like the whole like like, person from like the New York, New Jersey area. I just view myself as like Paul, if that makes like any sense,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but obviously like because by then it was like my first year as a mass. I was like aging up from seniors, right? And like seniors, I was like doing like really well, right? Like my last year of seniors, I won 2 regionals and got second at the other. So obviously, like, but it took me a while for me to get used to masters. So that definitely was something that took some getting used to. It was like getting used to like you're not gonna win like everything that you go to, right? Like that was like a little bit of a little change for me. And but yeah, like I guess like even then when I was a senior, people started to like know me from like even like masters, just right, just because of like the results I was having. So that was like its own little pressure, but I don't think it ever got to my head. But that was like over 10 years ago, so I'm not maybe it did get to my head, but like it's just so long ago that I don't remember. But
I mean, like, what about nowadays? Because obviously you are so decorated, right? You got 6 regional wins, 2 ICs, etc. All of these top cuts. Like, you've never been in a stream match where you've been the underdog, right? Like, it's always talked about, like, the broadcast team's always talking about, like, what you've done in the game, what you can do in the game. Do you ever feel any pressure to be getting those results, especially when you were having the 3-year curse?
uh honestly, not really. Again, it's just like the main thing of like, right, you're just like playing for yourself, right? You don't care about like what other people think. But I think one thing that helps is like I feel like I'm still like not as well known just because sometimes I still get people to ask me if it's like my first event and stuff, right? So it's not like I'm like
Really?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, so it's not like it's not like everyone just like knows who I am. Like there's people out there that don't know who I am.
Do
So
you
it's
say
like
yes?
Like, what do you say? No,
no
I've won
comment.
6 regionals. Like, I've
no,
been to a couple.
so I usually just tell them I've been playing for a while and that's it. Like
It's honest.
yeah, like yeah, that's all I say. I think one thing helps is like I feel like compared to like other people like Wolf, I'm not like as famous, so I think that's why I don't feel like as pressured, just because like I don't have like as much fame. I feel compared to them. I think that's like the actual answer for that. But
I mean, maybe
Just
you'll
know.
get there. I saw that you uploaded YouTube video
yeah,
talking about your EUIC win, going over the match, new content era coming out from Paul.
yeah, maybe one day, or well,
No, today, Paul.
I'm running out of ideas other than because like the most I can think of right now is just talking about EUIC, right? But like obviously I can't milk that forever, so I have to figure out new ideas to cook up. So
Now, it's a tough life as a content creator because I've been trying to like get back into content too, and it's the same thing. I'm like at the end of a video, I'm like, "Hey guys, if you like the video, let me know what you want to see." Because like
I'm out of ideas.
I don't know, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, you could give VGC advice, which is something that you gave to me back in the day. I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018. We were playing at a local, and I was asking you about like your play style And I've literally had this in my head pretty much every time you've been on stream, and like every time I've watched you ever since. You talked about like with the balance teams and how like a lot of times your opponents will play themselves out of winning positions, and your opponents will attempt to go for bigger reads. And so a lot of times when you make safe decisions, and it sometimes it looks like Luigi wins at Mario Party by doing nothing because like you're not, making big reads or anything. Like you are able to succeed because you're just not allowing yourself to get in your head and over predict on things. And so you like, to a lot of our listeners here on this podcast that are newer players, I think advice like that, if you want to expand on that, would be very helpful, because I still struggle with that too at this point. Like, why didn't I just do the easy play? I would have won.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more just like that quote where it's like the biggest enemy is yourself, right? Like obviously, that might not work all the time, but like I think if you just like trust what you're thinking and just like stick with it, that could probably go a long way. Just because like obviously this game's about predictions, so obviously you're going to get some turns right and some turns are wrong, right? That's just bound to happen, right? There's no way you can just like call everything perfectly, right? Like else we'd have like the best player ever. But yeah, I think that's just like the general gist of what I was trying to say with that is like, um, as long as you just play with like no regrets, I think that's how you should handle your match. Even though sometimes like you might like overthink things, as long as you're like proud or like as long as you're like happy with what you decide to do that turn, then that's the best you can do.
Been marking since 9 years. You gave that advice to Joe Brown, and that's a lot of years of learning from you. Do you have any current advice to those new players that are listening to the podcast trying to get into like this era of VGC that maybe don't know how, or are starting to attend events but don't know how to maybe get to a level of like day twoing, top cutting, etc.?
Yes, I think one thing that helps a lot now that wasn't a thing when like I started, I guess also when Joe started, was like the internet is definitely a lot more useful now for getting into VGC than ever, right? There's like a lot more like guides and stuff out there, so it's definitely that is a good starting point. And obviously like the normal traditional ways of just like spamming like showdown is another way of like learning from your mistakes. Obviously you don't have to do like the whole like in-depth like, oh, like why'd I lose this game, right? As long as you just like play the game and like feel like you're learning something, that's like I think a good starting point for anyone. Just because, and also like obviously you definitely shouldn't expect to like have a good start right away. Like it's very unrealistic, I feel, to like pop off. Like not everyone can be like a Justin Tang, right? Like no one can just like have like a really good start. So you are expected to fail, but I think there's like enough resources nowadays where you could learn how to get better for free, I think also. But like, obviously if you do have the money, you could probably spend money on coaches. That's another, I think that's another way to help. So sometimes you do just need like another person to like help you see things that you don't, right?
All right, this is off the wall. Sierra's not even ready for what's going to happen.
Oh boy.
Okay. Paul, you are cracked at League of Legends. Okay.
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is a
totally.
league podcast now.
Okay.
We just
No. There's more. There are VGC players that are obviously phenomenal at teamfight tactics or at maybe like Hearthstone or other like big thinking competitive online games. And I want your reasoning, because you're great at VGC and at League, right? Why is there such a strong crossover between high level VGC players being able to be high level in other online games?
Unfair for Paul. He's a one trick.
He's cracked at that one trick though.
Too. I've been losing like 4 games in a row recently. But anyways, I think one thing that helps, like from the games that you mentioned, right? They're like Hearthstone and TFT, both like strategy games, I think. So like they're similar to Pokemon. So I think that's probably why like people from VGC do like equally good in a game like that. Just because like there's enough like similarities where like stuff that you learn from one game carries over to the next. But for like League and like Pokemon, I don't think there's really any correlation, so I don't really have an explanation for that.
You just built different. Got it.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I think that's like the reason why like you'll see like most of the people who do well in VGC do well in like TFT is a good example. Like I think like Wolf is a good one. Like I think he hit like Challenger once. Just because like there's enough like stuff that carries over between the two, right? Like TFT I think is a strategy game. I don't really play TFT that much.
You should.
It's
the analysis are right there, Paul.
I guess so. Maybe I should one day. But yeah, yeah, I think there's just a lot of stuff that transfers over between those games that's why it looks like people can just succeed in both.
Makes sense. We're getting to the tail end of podcast, so any question that doesn't really fit anywhere else goes here now. But
that's why I had to get it in before we ran out of
Yeah.
time.
Oh, okay.
I had to gas up my guy.
But the other one that's a little bit random as we round out the last couple of questions is obviously you kind of shot yourself in the foot if Regulation F does continue on for a while. But if it isn't Regulation F that continues and we're not getting champions yet, I want to know from you what format you would like to go to. If it was like, yo, our most recent IC champion gets to pick our last regulation for Scarlet Violet.
I think I'd just pick a Reg C. That's the one that I definitely like a lot.
C.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also,
Did you
like
also
in the
vote
original,
Reg C?
Yeah, I voted for C in the poll, so that's what I'd pick. But I think like my realistic answer is like it's gonna end up being I, just because like that just sounds like what's gonna happen. But if I did pick, I'd pick Reg C.
I agree with both those takes. I would pick C, but I do think it'll be Reg I. Like that just kind of makes sense here.
No, we're staying optimistic. It's gonna be champions, okay?
Well, yeah, I would like champions, but
I don't know if that's gonna be true or not. But my heart wants it to be true.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul, how are you feeling with like this potential champions? Because I know talking to players, like some people are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But then other people have expressed like fear because this is a completely unknown thing that is completely tied to the future of our game, right? Like, how are you feeling going into it?
Looking forward to it. Like, obviously, there's like not much info about it, so I can't really have like an actual good opinion. But I usually like anything Pokemon related, so like I feel like I'll like I feel like I'll like the game anyways.
Do you like anything Pokemon related, but you haven't played ZA, which is crazy? What about Pokemon like Pokopia?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about getting that, but it's like if it's similar to Animal Crossing, I think it is. I'm not sure if I'll like it that much, just because Animal Crossing I didn't play too much after like a few months, but because it was like after some time I like only turn on the game just to get like my whatever the daily thing was, turnips. No, right?
The turnips, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a few months of playing.
Yeah. Also, like I'm not I think this definitely reflects in like my Pokemon team building. I'm not creative at all, so like I think that's why like I don't have like that much fun with the game, because it's like that's a game that requires like creativity, and if I lack that, then that's probably why I don't have like as much fun.
What are some other things, since we've had you the first time we have you on the pod, like everyone just knows you from VGC. Everyone knows you're hardcore playing games. Like what are other things in the daily life of Paul Chua that people might not know? Like favorite books, favorite other things going on in your life?
I guess the only other thing that like I really want to talk about is just like watching anime, right? That's like the only other thing that like I'd be fine talking about what I do. Obviously like nowadays that I'm a little older, I don't have like that much time to watch it as I did like when I was like in college, right? Like in college I could spend like a whole day watching it, but nowadays it's like an hour or two of watching whatever anime is airing. So that's usually the other thing.
I mean, getting older and having responsibilities, the worst. I think we can all attest to that as tragic. But to round off, one final question, and this is going to be our question of the week. Though I'm still debating which one I want to ask for, but we'll do Queenie's question because this is a little bit more silly, a little bit more fun. But talking about EUIC taking place over Valentine's Day weekend. So Queenie wants us to put together a 6 Pokemon team that matches Valentine's Day that could do okay enough. Maybe we go positive, Hey, Snubble went like what 4-4 at Toronto? Snubble.
True.
Yeah.
So
what do we qualify as a Valentine's Day?
Well, and I think like
what counts?
I mean, just Pokemon that like I don't know, like I thought like Enamorous,
Yeah, I think that's like the one I think of too. Yeah.
I was like, this is my thing. Does Gothitelle count? Because it's like dressed up, it's all fancy and stuff. Doesn't have like charm and other things.
I think so. I think like one thing I would think of was like Tornadus, right? I think it gets attract, right? I'm pretty sure it can. Like I
You
think
put
one of the
like
genies gets
Tornadus
attract.
and Enamorous together, like
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
the couple
exactly.
going out.
Yeah. That was my logic behind that.
Joe Brown does not
Um,
look sold.
No, I don't think muscly Tornadus.
It might be a stretch, but like
is more Valentine's than
I think
Gothitelle.
we kind of had to go there for this, but
We got to stretch a little bit.
Yeah.
I like how Paul is like, yeah, I think like if you like kind of turn your head, you do like Tornadus and like maybe your Shifu's kind of Valentine's coded victory. And
Shifu doesn't count. There's no way that is anything Valentine's related in there.
Tornadus
works just because there's an Amorous.
Incineroar, like
they got a bromance.
Yeah, you can do that.
No. We'll do an Amorous and Torn to start. What are their
there you go.
heart
There's
Pokemon?
like like flowery Pokemon, like a Florges or
Lilligant.
The little dancer.
Yeah.
We could do Lilligant. Okay.
Like Rabombi is a flower.
Rabombi could be cute. I don't know how we're getting to 4-4 right now, guys. That's our goal, to go 4-4 to regional with this Valentine's Day.
I don't think it's possible. I think this is gonna go like 2-6 at best.
Okay, but hold on. Xerneas is pink. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but like
Xerneas isn't even in the game.
I know, but if we can use it, that would give us a leg up.
Yeah. I feel like if I had the ability to use Xerneas and no one else could, I'd do a lot better than everyone else.
That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to help us win here, Sierra. I'm trying to go positive.
I think you're trying to help us cheat is the thing.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just breaking the rules.
Yeah. But a Fluttermane? I think Fluttermane Valentine's Day Pokemon. Fluttermane got that mascara on. She's got the pearls.
Okay, that might be a stretch, but I think that's okay.
Okay, you can't say that Torn is not a stretch, but Fluttermane is. That's wild.
Torn only worked because you said Enamorous. If you didn't say Enamorous, I was not going to say Torn. It doesn't work.
Man.
I feel like there could be worse than Fluttermane. Like, see, I'm trying to go from like a 2-6 to like a 3-5, you know?
Okay,
all right. We'll put Flutter on.
Fluttermane works.
Because like your heart's a flutter, right? You're like, oh my god, you know, true. It could work.
See.
And they're like, what about like is there a Lovely Kiss Pokemon? Is there like something like Drain Kiss? Some Pokemon?
Comfey?
Yeah. We have so many fairies.
I think that's a good one. It's like what's it called? It's like flowers anyways. Kiss moves.
Roserade.
Although we do.
That's like giving a flower.
Types. Yeah.
We just gotta really like be good with our Terra types. Screamtail?
Yeah, true.
No, Screamtail's a Valentine's for a nightmare.
Yeah.
What about
those
Indeedee?
Bangs?
Indeedee?
I think Indeedee works.
Yeah,
because there are a couple. Yeah.
So we got Indeedee, Fluttermane, Tornadus, Enamorous, Comfey.
You guys don't like Gothitelle?
Well, you don't really need 6 Pokemon, right? You could go with 5 in an event. We can stop there.
We're just like
we're trying to go 4-4 here.
Yeah, well, you can sometimes just do well with 5 Pokemon. Maybe the last guy is just like a distraction.
A little distraction.
We just put a Wolamola.
Yeah.
So we're with the theme. That way nobody can say
filler.
that we don't have the theme. Perfect.
There you go, yeah.
We did it.
All right, someone make it. We'll see if we can do better than 2-6 at an event. But, well, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, any final words to those listening? I mean, you can plug your YouTube. Any parting thoughts?
I guess the only thing I have to say is thanks for having me on here. I know usually I don't do podcasts, but I thought I might as well start doing them nowadays to try and explore different avenues, try this out. But yeah, I think that's mostly what I wanted to say.
I've been number one Chua fan for like a dozen years at this point. I feel like the podcast visit was deserved.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say thank you, not I deserve this. But
I put in a lot of effort making sure my boy looks good. Okay.
Oh my goodness! But well, I definitely appreciate you joining us. I know the OHKO community does as well. For anyone who's made it to this point of the episode, thank you so much for listening. Pokemon Presents is coming up soon. I know that was the second most exciting news this week. right behind Chua joining the podcast. So next week we'll talk all about that. Get ready, have our predictions for the present. So make sure to be getting your questions in. Would love to answer the questions, talk about your predictions as well going into it. All that can be done in the OHKO Discord server, link found in the description. Thank you again so much for listening, and we'll see you next week for our next episode of OHKO. Take care.